Good morning. This lesson is for my Honors Integrated 1 classes and my Integrated 1 classes. But before I get started, I want to say I hope that everyone's doing all right out there. I'm not sure how I'm going to title this lesson, but I'm going to title it how I title it in the title. But what I am sure of are 2 goals for the day. Our first goal is going to be to create ordered pairs that represent a situation and write an equation for those points that represent a situation. Our second goal is going to be to define standard form and convert slope-intercept form to standard form. We're also going to find intercepts to graph standard form. Okay, I can do this. I can read what I wrote. Okay, so going into this lesson, let me make something very clear. We know how to write the equation of the line passing through 2 points. We're going to use that fact to write the equation of the line that represents a situation represented by 2 points. Okay, so enough talking before I repeat myself. Suppose we have a $70 budget to buy $5 hats and $7 shirts. All right, we want to figure out how we can spend it, but you have to spend the $70. So if you only buy hats, and hats are $5, and you have to spend the $70, that means that we can buy 14 of these $5 hats. Now, if you only buy shirts, and the shirts are $7, you can buy 10. Knowing this is good enough to create ordered pairs that represents this situation right here. It does not matter. So now we're gonna start to make this a little bit mathematical, and we're gonna define buying hats as a value X or Y. We're gonna define buying shirts as a value Y or X. It depends on how we pick the first one. But again, it does not matter if the number of hats bought is X or Y. So we're gonna call it X. So the number of hats you buy is called X. The number of shirts you buy is called Y. So we already know that if you buy 14 hats and 0 shirts, this represents buying 14 hats, 0 shirts, and spending $70. So this is our first ordered pair created from this sentence. The second ordered pair is created from this part of the sentence, and this represents buying 0 hats, 10 shirts, and spending $70. Remember, X is number of hats, Y is number of shirts. And both points represent spending $70. Keep that in mind, it's very important. Now that we have 2 points, we can write an equation of the line passing through the points. Okay. This line is created from points that represent spending, I can use my words, that represent spending $70. So the line will represent spending $70. Okay, so the points represent spending $70, then the line that we create must represent spending $70. So remember, we have a formula, f of x equals the first y value plus the change in y, or the change in x, and then parentheses x plus the opposite of the first value. We've also called this slope, but we're using this version for this problem, or this lesson. All right, so I'm going to put my points in here. I've got 14 and 0, and I have 0 and 10. I think I did it different in class, but that's all right, it doesn't matter. To go from 14 to 0, we have to subtract 14, and to go from 0 to 10, we have to add 10. All right, so I have my change in y, I have my change in x, I have my first x value, and my first y value. All right, so now we're going to plug in what we have, and I'll actually do that work up here and make sure that I'm going to stay on this board. So f of x is equal to the first y value plus the change in y, which is 10, over the change in x, which is minus 14, and it's parentheses x plus the opposite of the first x value, so it's x minus 14. All right, so there's something that we have to do before we continue with this problem, and you always have to do this when you represent a situation, is you must reduce the slope. Alright, so let's see here. Alright, so we're going to reduce this slope. So I'm going to 10 over negative 14, I'm going to bring the negative up to the top, and we're going to get f of x is equal to 0 plus negative 5. I'm going to bring the negative up. Negative 5 over 7, parentheses, x minus 14. All right, so let's get rid of that fraction so we can clean this up a little bit. We multiply through everybody by 7, right? 7 and 7 and 7. So everyone gets a 7. Those 7s cancel. Now I'm left with 7 f of x's equals 0 plus a negative 5 parentheses x minus 14. Alright, let's pass this negative 5 out. And we're going to get 7 f of x's. I'm going to get rid of that 0. We don't need that anymore. Negative 5 times x is negative 5. And let's see here. Negative 5 times 14. That's going to get us to positive 70. Alright, so let's go ahead and divide back through by that 7 and get our equation in slope-intercept form. So we're going to get f of x, because those cancel out, is equal to negative 5 over 7 x plus 10. This is a line that represents spending $70 buying $5 hats and $7 shirts. And how do I know it represents that? I know that it represents that because the ordered pairs that I used to make it represent spending $70. So if my ordered pairs represent spending $70 that I used to make it, then this equation must represent spending $70. Alright, so let me make sure I didn't go off the whiteboard because I really don't like having to redo these lessons. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, when I can avoid a simple mistake. Alright, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to clean this up. I'd like to explain a little bit about what the numbers in the equation mean and how we can interpret them. And then after I get done with that, I'm going to come through and go through the second goal. So let me clean all this up and I'll be back. I'm back. So let's go ahead and continue with this lesson. So we've created ordered pairs that represent a situation, and we've written the equation for those points. And here's my equation, and this is the equation in slope-intercept form that represents spending $70 on $5 hats and $7 shirts. The number of hats we bought is the x value, and the number of shirts we bought is the y value. Now, if we were to graph this line, you would begin at 10 on the y-axis because that's our y-intercept. And once you get to 10 on the y-axis, you're going to use our slope to move to the next point. So using our slope, we're going to move down 5, which means we're buying 5 less shirts, and right 7, which means we're buying 7 more hats, and find the next point, 7, 5. So we're going to buy 7 $5 hats and spend $35, and we're going to now buy 5 $7 shirts and spend $35. So if I'm spending $35 on hats and $35 on shirts, I'm spending $70. And I'm trying to really reinforce that this line is about spending $70. So I just want to really, really point that out, because in the previous section I was going to show you how the numbers in this thing represent spending $70. So I wanted to investigate that a little bit, point that out. Alright, so let's move on to our second goal here. And our first part of the second goal is to define standard form and convert slope-intercept form to standard form. So standard form is an equation that's written as ax plus by is equal to c, where a, b, and c are whole numbers. So I'd like to rewrite our equation that we have over there, and right here as well, in standard form. So the first, we're going to use y instead of f of x. So we're going to have this now. We're going to have y equals negative 5 over 7 x plus 10. We have to have whole numbers, so that means I need to multiply everybody by 7 because I can't have a fraction. So you get a 7, you get a 7, and you get a 7. These 7s cancel out, and I'm now left with 7y equals negative 5x plus 70. Now, this is not quite in standard form because ax and by are not on the left side of the equal sign. I can fix that really quick by adding 5x to both sides, and we're going to get 5x plus 7y is equal to 70. This equation still represents spending $70 on $5 hats and $7 shirts, and again, x is the number of hats we buy, y is the number of shirts we buy. Alright, so the question I ask is, when should we use standard form? And we use standard form in situations where two things, or when two things add to a third. So our equation of 5x plus 7y adding to 70 means that I'm spending money on buying $5 hats and spending money on buying $7 shirts, and together when I spend money on these two things, it's going to add up to $70. So this situation is ideal for standard form. So in your homework assignment, you're going to be asked to create standard form equations. And we do that by creating ordered pairs that represent the situation. And you saw when we did that by figuring out how many hats can I buy if I don't buy any shirts, how many shirts can I buy if I don't buy any hats. And we labeled the hats as X, the shirts as Y. We could have done this process by labeling the number of shirts as X and the number of hats as Y. This is so confusing. I hope I'm doing this right. But if not, I hope you understand the gist of it. Now, again, this is how much we spend on hats. This is how much we spend on shirts. And this is how much we spend in total. So here's the two things that add to the third, the total spend. So I've got one more section to talk about, and that's how to find intercepts to graph standard form. So I've shown you how to I've defined standard form, and I've converted slope-intercept form to standard form. Now I just need to find the intercepts to graph standard form, and I've completed this lesson. So let me clean all this up, and I'll be back. I'm back for the last time, I promise. So we're going to go ahead and finish the second goal, and that's going to be how to find intercepts to graph in standard form. Alright, so I have our previous equation, and let's say we didn't know any of the points, and I'll show you how we find points to graph. It's really quite easy to do. And all we're going to do is we're going to create two situations. First situation is we're going to make x equals 0. And when we make x equals 0, what's going to happen to 5x, which becomes 5 times 0 plus 7y equals 70, that goes away, and now we're just left with 7y equals to 70. Now, when we solve this little equation by dividing away the 7, we get y is equal to 10. And when I have an x and when I have a y, I have an ordered pair. So I found one ordered pair that is on this line, and that ordered pair would be 0, 10. And again, remember, these ordered pairs represent spending $70. I bought 0 $5 hats and 10 $7 shirts, and I spent $70. So that's one point that we're going to find. The second point we're going to find, instead of letting x equal 0, we're going to let y equal 0. So now I have 5x plus 7 times 0, and that's equal to 70. That goes away, and now I have 5x is equal to 70. We can divide away the 5, and we get the x value of, let's see, 5 goes into 50 10 times. I need 4 more, so x is going to be 14. Oh, email. So again, I have an x and a y, so I have an ordered pair. My ordered pair is 14, 0. That means I bought 14 $5 hats and spent $70 and $0 on $7 shirts. And again, I'm spending $70. Now, this is called graphing by finding intercepts. This is the y-intercept because the x value is 0. This is the x-intercept because the y value is 0. So this method is called graphing by finding intercepts. So anytime you have a 0 and a number, that's the y-intercept. And anytime that you have a number and 0, that is the x-intercept. I can spell, come on, we can do this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and before I end it, these are the skills that you need to do the homework assignment that is assigned to you today. So I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Again, I hope everyone is doing all right out there. Have a great day, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.